Confidence is one of the single most important characteristics you need to develop if you are truly interested and invested in maximizing your human potential. Without confidence, you're going to be hamstrung and only achieve at best 50% of what you're capable of. My name is Josue Deloyer, and welcome back to Sundays with Josue, where we discuss live every week, Sunday at 8 p.m., mindset and business, with the goal of serving as an inspiration and education for the next generation of entrepreneurs. Super happy to see everyone here today. We're going to be doing a super great presentation on a topic that's near and dear to my heart, which is confidence, which is something that I've personally had to develop over the course of the past, at this point, approaching 10 years or so. For those of you who don't know my story, I started off as a pre-medical student. I then transitioned into entrepreneurship after applying to medical school. And that whole entire process was one that was extremely daunting, both from the perspective of changing my identity and something that I identified with so much, my career. I was the pre-medical student, right? And going from that into going to entrepreneurship, which is this new, cool, trendy word that isn't really too solidified. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and hop right on into it. Super pumped to see people here in the chat today. Thank you guys for all the support. I'm super glad you guys are here, and I'm excited to bring you guys some value. Now, per usual, we're going to go ahead and hit it hard with a definition. Now, yeah, this seems boring. Like, why are we talking about the definition of self-confidence? Well, it's important that when we're having these discussions, we all know exactly what we're talking about, as well as why we're talking about it. So self-confidence is defined as a feeling of trust in one's abilities, qualities, and judgment. That's per Oxford Languages. Now, you may say to yourself, it's a feeling. Why does it matter if it's not something that's tangible or real? Well, that's because most oftentimes what the reality you have within your mind is actually more impactful than your actual surroundings. And don't take my word for it. Let's think to some of the old greats. Henry Ford, and he said it best. If you think you can do a thing or you think you can't do a thing, you're right. And Henry Ford, if you guys don't know, as you can imagine, is the founder of Ford Motors. And something that's really interesting about this old wisdom is that it's not simply old wisdom. It actually has been shown to be proven and true empirically. So this is from a research paper that was published in 2018 by a group of psychologists. And this is what they found. Using ground level data on 254 competitors between 2009 and 2013, we show that the less confident athletes are, the worse their performance is on the shooting range. We show that our results are not driven by fatigue or exhaustion specific, and excuse me, to the competitive settings we analyze. So take that for a second. Competitive athletes that were analyzed, and they were juxtaposing their confidence right next to their performance. And they literally showed using data that one's confidence does have an effect on their performance. And now here's my personal take. So forget about your performance. Forget about how good you are and how good you do. What about taking action in the first place? What about swinging the bat? In the areas of confidence, entrepreneurship, action, whether it be in your personal life, romantic life, business life, etc., taking action is one of the only ways you can actually create change. Without exerting energy and moving, nothing changes. Inertia. However, lack of self-confidence and fear, which we discussed earlier, so we're going to talk about that. We can link that previous video up here. But fear, as well as lack of self-confidence, oftentimes causes us not to swing the bat. And the thing about life is that you never know what's going to hit. Obviously, we all have had failures in our lives, but you never know when your next success may be. You may just be one swing away from that home run. You may be one video away from a viral video that could change your entire life. You may just be one simple business idea that instead of thinking about it like you normally do, you actually execute upon it and you bring it to market. You might just be one bit of action away from changing the entire course of your life forever. And I would argue that that is why confidence is important, because it's not just about the fact that with more confidence, you're going to perform better, but more so with confidence in the first place, you'll take action, and taking action in many instances is more than half the battle. So, okay, so now what? So we understand that confidence matters. It matters in regards to you being efficacious and having effectiveness in your behavior, but it also matters for taking damn action in the first place, for moving your freaking feet and starting to run the race of life. So what do we do with that information? How do we go ahead and actually build confidence? Well, I have a 3-part system that I've used in my life to increase my own personal confidence. And it falls into 3 categories: mindset, environment, and action. So let's hop right into it. So the first thing is mindset. It all starts with the mind, as we discussed. If you think you can achieve something, you're right. If you don't think you can, you're also right. Both of these things are equally true. So the first thing is to have a moment of reflection, reflecting on your thinking. And that may seem very quasi. What does it mean to reflect on my thinking and be self-aware and be introspective? Well, it means to think about and ask yourself honestly, when is it that I feel the most confident? When is it that I feel the most strong? And think about those moments and then go a level deeper. Ask yourself, well, why is that? Maybe it's because of who you're surrounded by. Maybe it's because of who you're wearing, what you're wearing. Maybe it's because of what activity you're doing. We all have different areas, more powerful and less powerful. But the question is, why? I encourage you today to ask yourself those questions. And then, once again, go a level deeper, because until you hit the bottom of the iceberg, you won't be able to actually have efficacious change in your life. So something else for us to think about, in addition to simply asking yourself why, is you can use your past successes to propel you forward. So oftentimes, especially in the areas of public speaking, doing a new entrepreneurial venture, or oftentimes even in social situations, we have so much fear and reluctance to take action because we fear the worst. And we fear, I'm not capable, I'm not smart enough, I'm not fast enough, I'm not clever enough to make it happen. But think back to a time where you were successful at a new endeavor. Maybe it was in an athletic sport, athletic activity, and ask yourself, had you not taken action in the first place, what would have happened? The answer would have been nothing, for one. And for two, you can think back oftentimes to a moment of past success and use that thought to trigger yourself into a more empowered state that can allow you to take action in the present tense. And also, too, this may seem morbid, but imagining failure is one of the most powerful ways you can get yourself to take action. Because when you remove the fear of failure, you can effectively move forward. Think to yourself, in the case of public speaking, which we can all relate to, what is the absolute worst case scenario if this speech goes horrible? If I poop on myself, if I throw up, if I fall down, get laughed at, get an F, what's the worst case scenario? Take a step back from there and say, well, how likely is that to happen? And when you realize that most likely the worst case scenario won't happen, and even if it did, it's not that bad, it makes it 10 times easier to take action and move forward. And then lastly, if perhaps you sat there and you imagined failure and that wasn't enough to help you take action, another great thing you can actually do in real time is simply think to yourself, okay, I had failure. It was terrible. It was horrible. It was the worst thing since moldy bread. But think about it. 10 years after that failure is over, would it really be so bad? Most of the time, the answer is no. And once again, that little simple thought perspective shift can allow you to move forward, take action, and swing the bat and have a chance at that viral and super successful moment. So we talked about this first bit of how we can go ahead and use our mindset to be able to help us to build our confidence and to take action. But what else can we do? Well, I would argue that your environment is another great thing you can leverage. So we all have heard of the concept that you are who it is that you're surrounded by. And we all know, you're the average of your 5 closest friends and the 5 people you spend the most time with. But how many of us really believe that? And for how many of us does that really resonate? So here's an example that a friend of mine who is much more successful than I am gave me. Imagine a world where your income was based upon the average income of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Think about that for a second. And also, on top of that, how would that change your actions? If you were in a reality where your personal take-home income, how much money you made, moolah, dinero, was directly related to the average income of the 5 people you spend the most time with, how would your actions change? Would they change? Simply asking yourself that question and thinking about it from that perspective can make a huge difference in your actions. So with that being said, thinking about and being more cognizant of who it is that we surround ourselves with, something else that we can go ahead and think about is, well, why are they like that? So if we in this scenario, have surrounded ourselves with more successful people now, people who make more income, who are more charismatic, who are more confident. Whatever quality that we are trying to develop within ourselves, they currently possess it at a higher level than we do. What can we do about that? How do we actively glean and learn from those individuals? Well, the concept is very simple. It's called modeling. Within psychology, it has been shown that one of the easiest ways to learn a new skill is to simply copy that of someone else. So for me, for example, when I was trying to get out of my shell and become more sociable, I would hang around people who were the more popular kids in school. And I would think about like, well, how do they speak? How do they communicate? How do they think about life? Oftentimes, what's the most powerful thing is not necessarily modeling what someone does, but modeling how they think. It can make a big, big, big difference. How they view failure, how they view success, how they view money. Those little differences, honestly, are the driving factor behind most of the most successful people's successes. And also some of the most unsuccessful people's lack of success. So, okay, so now we know, and we agree on the fact that, okay, I need to go around and surround myself with better people. I need to start modeling them. I need to start learning from them. I need to start becoming just like them. Well, how do I find these people? I'm surrounded by bums, Josue. I can't change my friend group. I don't know anybody. I don't know how to meet people. Well, I'm going to give you 3 very, very easy and powerful ways you can use to meet new friends. So the first of which is simply meetup.com. No matter what city you're in, for the most part, if you have a population density of more than 20,000, there probably is a meetup group within your area. And for those of you who don't know, meetup.com is a very simple and powerful application. It's meant and designed to help people, especially those new to a certain city or town, to meet each other and to come to make friends. So now that's one resource you can use. And guess what? If there aren't meetups in your area, you can be the one to create them. You can create the network. You can create the happy hour. You can create whatever it is, the common area for people to come to meet and make friends. And so now that's one way you have access to a larger pool of people with whom to associate. And you never know where you'll meet friends. So for me, for example, I've actually met people who have wanted to invest into my company and into me financially simply through Meetup. And that was, for me, I was taken aback when that occurred, but that's just a practical real life example of whom you can actually meet and where you can meet them. So here is another example to once again making it easy. Facebook groups. Facebook is powerful to the extent that I don't think anyone expected when it first was started. There are billions of people on Facebook. You can join Facebook groups for just about every single passion there is, whether it be athletics, whether it be reading, whether it be competitive bowling. There's a group for it on Facebook. Simply find a Facebook group, join it, find a Facebook group aligned to your passions and your desires, join it, network, comment on people's posts, go to an event, and through that you can make friends. And then lastly, there's just google.com, good old google.com. You can Google events and things to do near me, and that can be another great way for you to gain exposure to new people. So now you're not going to be held captive by the friends who you met when you were younger and early on in life. You now have the choice and the freedom to choose with whom to associate, because you have now placed yourself in a position of abundance rather than scarcity. And guys, if you're liking this comment so far, if you're liking this content so far, go ahead and give this video a quick like and consider subscribing to the channel, because we're going to go to the next point, which is going to be action, and it's going to be super, super good. I'm really pumped to go into that section. Bird, we see Albert, thanks for breaking down complex points and making them simple. I appreciate that so much. I try my best to do that. Sometimes I wonder if I'm going into too much depth, so I'm happy to hear that. So now we're at the meat and the potatoes. We're at the action taking step. Here we are. So this is oftentimes the step that is the most important, but also the most frightening. Taking the first step is the hardest step, but the most important step. So I'm going to advocate for, instead of trying to create massive change all at once, baby step it. Take smaller steps and allow those to compound into a larger overall effect. So for your change, maybe you want to start creating content, which I believe everyone should. So Perhaps for you, your methodology and your way of getting your voice out there and getting your message of good spread to the world isn't going to be a live stream. Maybe that's too large of a step, which is understandable. However, what you also can do is create a simple blog post, a simple tweet, a simple LinkedIn article, etc. You can find ways to put your content or to start to move towards becoming that version of yourself, the more confident version of yourself you desire to be, in small, simple ways. And I argue that's actually the most efficacious way to go about it, is by starting small. Now, here's where the system that we discussed all comes together. So you now have a new mindset that's allowing you to take action and to make these changes. You now have a new supportive friend group and social circle that is backing behind you and galvanizing behind you. And that's the beautiful thing, is that as you take action, you can ask your new friends and your new network to support you, which is what happened to me. When I first started this live stream, and in this process, a lot of the people who have attended live have been my close personal friends who have supported me along this journey. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. But that's something that I designed into my life, and something you can design into your life as well. Finding people who are already there, but who also want to see you get there as well and support you along that journey is super important. And now here is the final point of the action category, and that is frequency beats intensity. So what does frequency beats intensity mean? Well, to be simple, it's better to do something small a lot of times than it is to do something massive only once. And this is especially true in the concept and in the context of behavioral modification. So confidence, we know, primarily comes from your mindset, your mentality, and the experiences that have created that. However, we're trying to create a higher level of confidence, a new type of confidence. And the best way to go about doing that is through repeated actions, whether it is talking to someone new during the day, whether it's posting something on social media, whether it's starting a new side branch of your business, something a little bit more entrepreneurial, whatever the case may be. It's better to do it something small, daily, every single day, to build those new neural networks, to build those new habit patterns, to build those new behavior patterns. It's much better to do it that way than it is to simply do it massive all at once. A great example for that is the gym or making a new running habit. It's a lot better to simply wake up, go on a 5-minute jog every single day for a month than it is to run 3 miles one day and not run for the rest of the month, especially if you're thinking about from the perspective of changing behavior and having it be a long-lasting, sustained change. So let's go ahead and summarize. So what have we talked about over this approximately 17-minute rant? So we talked about self-confidence, why it freaking matters. We know that confidence matters because of the fact that without it, one, your actions are not going to be effective. We've shown that through science. Additionally, two, without confidence, you won't take the first step in the first place. And we've shown that, to be scientifically shown. So we talked about the different mindsets you have to create in order to create an environment that will allow you to take action and to take effective action. We also discussed the importance of your environment, the friends you have in your life and who you surround yourself with, and how that is one of the most important factors for determining your overall success. And lastly, we discussed new actions and what it is you can do practically to create a new behavioral pattern that will last long, even beyond the first weeks and months that you began it.